Let's do it, boys. Good afternoon and welcome back to day 2 of the World Under-24 Ultimate Championships. The sun's out and the wind is blowing here in Perth, Western Australia, as we have a clash of the heavyweights in the women's division between the USA and Colombia. We go now to Joy Lee and Cole Fink in the booth for the call.
Thanks very much, Max. Thanks very much, and what a tantalising matchup we've got in pool play. We are so lucky to see these two fantastic teams here on day 2, USA and Colombia. And even though it's just pool play, Cole, I can't wait to see what these two teams have.
Absolutely, Joy. I think this matchup is going to give us a bit of a signal of what to expect later in the tournament. You'd expect both of these teams to drive very deep into this tournament and these results, and it wouldn't be out of the question to see them both in the final. So perhaps we're about to see a preview of what's to come. I'm incredibly excited to see it, and I think that this is an opportunity for Colombia to continue to show their incredible development. They've had some unbelievable results on the world stage in the last couple of years, Joy.
Absolutely. I had the chance to speak to them just before their warm-up, and even though they're still a youth team or under 24s, they've got such experience. You know, players who are only 20 or 21 years of age have been playing for 10 years or more sometimes, numerous world championships under their belt, a lot of experience in these tough conditions, and no doubt going forward in the tournament as well.
Indeed. In fact, only 3 players on Colombia's relatively short roster have no previous Worlds experience. So I think they've got 14 players in attendance. It's a long trip and a very expensive one for the Colombians to get here to Perth, so their rosters are pretty short, but all but 3 players with previous Worlds experience, and some of them with truly a ludicrous degree. Obviously, the Cardenas sisters are superstars in World Frisbee. They've got World Games experience. They've got World Ultimate and Guts Championships experience. They came second at both of those events, in fact. And we also saw Revolution, the Colombian club team from Medellin, coached by Mauricio Moore, who is also coaching this outfit. And they went through and won the US Open recently as well. So a lot of those players with that experience also.
Unbelievable. So no doubt we'll see a couple of key matchups in this match. And maybe some of those players have played against each other previously and know what to expect and know what to target. Can you tell us anything about this US team coming across from the States?
Well, the first thing I'd talk about with the US team is their coaching staff. The combined years of experience between Alex Snyder, Nancy Sun, and Deanna Ball, I don't want to guess, partly because it might be giving away something about their age, and that's not polite, but I would suggest it could be multiple centuries worth of Frisbee experience among those 3. And had an opportunity to talk with Nancy and Deanna in particular just prior to this game, and they were talking about what an incredible privilege it is to be picked from the incredible depth of athletes that the US scene produces. And one thing that's interesting is they haven't just picked a team of highlight reel superstars. There are names that you might have expected to see on this US team who aren't here, and that's because they wanted to pick a really balanced team, a very coachable team, and a team that was going to really respond and grow throughout this tournament. So we're about to see the first pool. What's going to happen? We've got the US on offense here in Perth. We've got a slight breeze running left to right on your screen, but at the moment, the wind not as bad as we have seen so far.
This is the first pool of the game, ladies and gentlemen, from Colombia to US. US doing a side stack here, taking their time, opening up that field. Loads and loads of space for them to work into.
Fallon with the disc here. She's got Angela Zhu. The US just looks so composed. They've always got a cut coming. Zhu with the disc again. Recent Callahan winner, of course. Ooh. Werfully just managing to hang on to that one.
US taking their time here. This is a hallmark of US teams.
And they punted
she
it long.
stuck it.
I think that's gone out of bounds about 5 yards in from the end zone. So a bit of a miscue on the throw there.
Good looking option. That player was quite free in the end zone. They're just finding their range here, and as the game progresses, they'll work on those communication and cues, especially with the long shots.
I think also definitely the wind, it's a bit swirly. It's coming in at different angles.
We've got Lillian Weaver here picking up the disc. She's a key handler for this Canadian team. Colombian. Apologies.
Lillian's actually originally from Oregon. And, whoa, that's a great deep strike from the Colombians.
Athletic.
Great catch. One of the things that the Colombian team has as a hallmark is ludicrous athletic ability, unbelievable skills.
We've got Valeria Cardenas with the disc here, back to Weaver. You'll see the Colombians move the disc really calmly through these key handlers and look to strike it long.
Valeria now with the disc.
To Gomez.
Literally a
She's
there's a hammer over the top.
Across, athletic defense there from the US. 2 defenders peeling off to cover that one.
That's Way with the block. And the US back in control on offense. Can they work their way through this Colombian D? There's another deep strike.
Loads
Looks like
of space
Way's going to
there.
get under it.
She's waited, very close there. What the US have done really well so far is keep that deep space quite free for the offense to work. When you've got the skills and the options there, as both teams have here, you want to keep that space available. Weaver picking up. Looking under. Got Cardenas. Neat backhand up the line. Towed in by the player. Marin.
Colombians look very composed, and just as I say that, the commentators curse. There's a simple short ball turnover there, and the US back on offense. Looks like this is going to be a very defensive game. She's just towed that in as Angela Zhu, and then a cheeky little backhand flip that has not connected with Henkin. And I think that's 5 turns now for the first point. Both teams maybe a little bit of nerves coming up against their arch rivals here.
And no doubt the pressure of this defense, every player out there of a very high standard, and even small margins of error sometimes result in a turnover here.
So the Americans, I think, are having trouble adapting to the Colombians' defense. They're playing match-up, but they're willing to sag off players, particularly through the middle of the ground. So the lane looking very clogged when the Colombians are on D. And there goes the deep shot.
Straight from the get-go.
And again, cut off by the Colombian defense. This is an incredible opening point.
Absolutely. Cole, I wonder how long the tactics will carry on, hucking off a static disc and looking for contests which would otherwise come off against another team, perhaps. Weaver with the disc there for Colombia. Cardenas.
That's a nice cross-field look.
Coming across to Morantes.
The Colombians having to work their way into the breeze a little bit here. So a little bit more of a challenge for them when they're holding the disc.
Gomez to Weaver there. Strong option, but defensive pressure again.
So Angela Zhu getting plenty of the disc at the moment. She's really anchoring that offense. Nice look from Werfeli. Back to Zhu. There's a look to the end zone. A wide open player, and she's right there on the line. Dumps it off again to Way. Way with the disc. Colombians trying to clog all of that space. And the dump swing is a miscue. Unbelievable defense from the Colombians. This is, I think, our 7th turnover for the point. And it looks to be an epic battle.
And that was good scramble there from the Colombians. They were sagging off their players early in that possession, but managed to get back and clog the spaces and affect that turnover.
I thought Abramovich was going to have an opportunity to score there, but the Colombians just able to drop into the end zone, clog up all that space.
Cardenas here. The Colombians quite static in their setup for the most part, looking for a couple of key isolations to really hit downfield. You'll see that they'll work their disc through those handlers until they can try and find something.
Bit of a miscue from Valeria there. She wanted to put one through to her sister, Manuela. And their defense is broken down a little bit here, the Colombians. So the US And Zhu has elected to call a timeout on stall 0.
Well, and it's probably a good option, Cole. It's been quite a long point already. We're hitting 7 minutes for this very first point of the game, USA v Colombia.
So I think on the USA side of the disc at the moment, it's Angela Zhu who's really dictating the play. She's had great support from the handler position, from Werfele in particular, but Zhu constantly looking to attack downfield spaces from the handler set. And seemingly at the moment, the Colombians struggling to contain Zhu. It'll be interesting to see if their defense can put the brakes on her progress.
Absolutely. Yesterday in the Colombia v GB matchup, we saw Colombia doing a number of different poaching zone looks for their defense. At the moment, Zhu as a handler is using that forward space of the disc very effectively as a handler, doing some angled cuts, working around her defender. We'll see what the Colombians can do to try and contain that later.
So for some of the less experienced viewers, Joy, what does it mean to poach on defense?
Well, I guess with match defense, what players will usually do in that regard is stick as tightly as they can to their offensive player and look to anticipate where they're going to get the disc and look to sometimes be there physically first, but generally very close to their person. When you're looking to poach a little bit, it's more taking away a space or a potential space where your offensive player may move to shortly.
So sagging off that player a bit and trying to anticipate where they might be going instead.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, so the US offense is set. Zhu's got the disc. They've gone with a pretty standard 5-player vertical stack in the end zone. They've stretched that stack out to minimize the potential for picks. Colombia trying to decide how to set up their players around it to take away both the open side and the break side space. Angela Zhu, of course, has an incredible breadth of throwing capabilities, and perhaps the mark doesn't matter so much. The break side space is always a danger when she's holding the disc.
Yes.
And they start with a quick swing across to Werfele. Werfele using Angela Zhu forward. As we said, she's attacking those forward spaces from the handler set. Colombia's defense now setting up. Werfele makes that cut, gets the disc back. She looks to the end zone. And that is a goal brought in by number 20, I think. That's Knowles.
Goal to USA and a really hard-fought first point there.
Absolutely. Sophie Knowles with the first score.
Well, we saw a bit of everything there, Cole, in that first point.
Yeah, we saw mostly defense, I would say, Joy, was what we saw most of. So we'll see the Colombians heading back. They've got a pretty short roster, and I wonder how that's going to play out. If this is going to be a real grind of a game like we've just seen for that first point. The Colombians with only 2 lines of players. The USA with a 24-player squad, so obviously they can afford to grind it out a little harder. The Colombians certainly with all the skills and talent that the USA have, and maybe just a war of attrition might be to the USA's advantage.
Perhaps, here. Yes. We have seen, though, Colombia succeed at the very highest levels with smaller squads than some of their competing teams. And so they've definitely got the fitness and the stamina to last. You often see the Colombians here linking arms at the start of a point. They're a very tight-knit group, these group of women, and hailing from many different areas and clubs in Colombia.
Colombian spirit really is an incredible story over the last few years, and perhaps in between one of the points coming up, we'll talk about that a little. Spirit of the game, so central to the play of Ultimate, everywhere from casual pickup games to the highest level like we are here at Worlds. Here we go, USA with the pull.
The breeze still coming left to right on your screens here. Weaver picking up the key handler, Cadenas.
USA just playing tight match D here, so each player accountable just for one counterpart.
Silva looking down the line. Oh, and a tightly squeezed attempt to pass there.
So the USA back in control of the disc. We've got Hansen, looks off her quick dump, now finding an open player. That's Kramer. The Colombians forcing backhand.
Colombians playing very tight at the moment.
Nicely timed little dump off there. And she's managed to get a hand in. Quick discussion. And I think we've got an uncontested strip call by the looks of it. So Kramer, the American player, has caught the disc, and she's had it pulled out of her hands by the Colombian. And no discussion there from the Colombian. Quick acknowledgement of what's gone on, and we're back in play. So great spirit there.
Excellent.
Kramer now shoots to space.
Oh, wow!
Goodness, what a D!
Full stretch layout there, near the end zone, if not right at the front.
I think that was Valeria Cardenas.
Valeria Cardenas.
What an incredible D. Such an athletic player. She is phenomenal to watch.
Giving her team chance here to score that down window, working it around. Manuela Cardenas here. Back to the far side. Colombia quite spread out here, but there are spaces in between the players in the stack as well, so quite a few options for them at the moment. Can they take advantage? US playing very tight match D as well.
Absolutely, they're playing a really accountable match D, and we've got another turn there. Weaver can't hang on to that pass, it's shot deep.
Long shot.
Oh, could have the scraps. Hang on, we've got a call. Foul called, bit of contact as the disc was coming in. And no, looks like they're waving the call off.
We've got 2 game advisors on this pitch for this matchup, and
so it looks like it's going to be an uncontested foul call. USA knocking on the door, right on their end zone line. We've got Trop with the disc, tight marking by the Colombians. Oh, she gets a dump off nicely, and they look end zone, and the USA score.
Well worked there, USA. You saw the defensive scramble there from the Colombians. How tight were they on their players? A bit of contact there with that long shot. The call resolved without much fuss, and US are able to make it 2-0 at the moment. Each point so hard fought here.
So maybe we'll cross down to our chief game advisor and also chair of the WFDF Rules Committee, Ruben Berg. Ruben, what was the call there down by the end zone?
Yeah, so it's just an uncontested foul called in the end zone there, which the players resolved by themselves very well. No issues at all so far in the game, which is what we like to see.
Fantastic.
Thanks, Ruben. So Ruben is the chief game advisor. So the game advisors are here to help the players self-officiate the game. So unlike the American system with observers, the game advisors make no active calls. And what they're here to do is help the players successfully officiate the game themselves. So they'll do things like keep track of the time, as they would be now, because we've had a timeout call. And they're also able to come in, clarify any rules, help with communication between the players, which is so important here at a Worlds event where not everybody speaks English as their first language. And occasionally, if the players ask, they can go to the game advisor for another perspective, just as they would perhaps go to another player for their perspective. Let's head down to Max, who's got some info for us.
Thanks, Cole. I've been standing here on the sidelines watching the first couple of points just as you have, and a number of times I've seen the American coach, Alex Snyder, grit her teeth as a grimace passed across her face. And I think that pretty much sums up what we're going to see for the rest of the game. It's going to be a gritty game. It's going to be a lot of grinding. And the shouts and the calls coming from the sideline have been no unders, no unders, no unders. So it looks like the US team will be looking to force Colombia to continue to take those deep shots and trust their athleticism to get in the contest and get the disc back.
Yeah, thanks, Max. And what we've seen from the Colombians so far is they've taken a few of those deep shots that the Americans are forcing them to look at, but they haven't been successful. In this wind, it requires extreme throwing power and extreme throwing finesse to control the disc over a distance that long, especially upwind. And so at this point, looking like the American strategy of taking away those undercuts. So that means when the player's coming under back towards the disc, the defender's prioritizing that space. And at the moment, it's a grind, but it's working, Joy.
Absolutely, absolutely. And with even just a slight breeze, and this wind picks up on occasion, it's quite gusty, that tactic is definitely going to pay dividends. Even with a team that has really strong long shots, long throws across the board, if you can't complete a number of shorter passes consistently, you're going to really struggle on offense.
Absolutely. And I think what we've seen defensively from these two teams is quite in contrast with each other. The Americans are playing a very accountable one-on-one match D, and each player is purely accountable for their one offender that they're trying to take out of the game. On the other hand, the Colombians, they're playing match, they're playing one-on-one, but they're much more willing to sag off their player, fill dangerous spaces, and try to create some chaos in front of the disc and see if they can force a turn that way.
That's right, that's right. Colombians here, linking arms, You've got US pulling to Colombia, left to right across your screen.
So the pull goes up from Casey Cessna, and like the plane she shares a name with, she has launched that pull. It's
What
landed
a
a meter
pull.
from the back cone. That is a phenomenal pull.
Hernandez there right in the back corner. What can she pull out here? Oh! She's managed to squeeze that despite the layup bit, and yep, decided to get it out of there.
So we've got
Stuck it to
Cardenas.
Cardenas. Oh! Athletic bid. Did
Fabulous
much.
D from number 36, Carolyn Normile. And the US with the opportunity to go 3-0 up here if they can control this disc. Great grab from Hassan. She's looking end zone. The US are arranging themselves in a vertical stack, trying to create space for their cutters to move into. Angela Zhu with the disc. Makes Hassan dig up some grass to pick that one up. There's a pick call, yeah. One of the US players, number 36, that's Normile. She was in an acre of space and was for 15 seconds, and that's usually a good sign of a pick, Joy.
Absolutely, especially with this tight match D on offer. I think the US team, whenever they're working their offense, must feel so comfortable and so confident with Zhu at the helm here with the disc in her hands.
Oh, good bid, but again, we've got the commentator's curse, Joy. She's just put that disc a little bit behind, too far out for her player, and there's a turnover. Colombia back in control.
Absolutely, Gomez here with most of the field. Colombia need to work it up.
Oh.
Looks like a pick call.
Yeah, a bit of a collision in the stack. Looks like the stall count at 5. So Valeria Cardenas with 5 seconds to move the disc on.
Undercuts, there's the captain of Colombia there. Caro Angel.
Americans still taking away every look underneath from the Colombians, exactly as Max was telling us, and it's worked again. Curtis with a wonderful D. She read that out of the hand, took away that space.
Absolutely, good cutting there from Hernandez. Just such tight defense from the US.
So Angela Zhu back again to Douglas. Zhu again, Hassan, Zhu, Douglas, all moving the disc well.
US attacking the central space from the sides.
Colombia not really able to pressure these throws at the moment. The US seemingly able to dictate things, move the disc where and when they want to. The Colombian D is going to have to start turning up the screws. You only need a tiny gap with players of this caliber for a throw to be wide open.
Flattish mark here from the Colombians. And you'll see the US moving the disc from side to side in order to open up the options further near the end zone.
Colombians seemingly just trying to get the US to throw a lot of passes and hope that the wind contributes to their defense, which is exactly what's happened.
There you go. Commentator's curse, commentator's blessing, Cole.
So you've always got one extra defender on days like this. The 8th defender is the wind. They call the 8th offender is your sideline, encouraging your teammates. So Manuela Cardenas now with the disc, looks off that long shot.
Quite a number of players are around the disc level here for Colombia.
Wonder if they're just trying to open up that downfield space a bit, Joy. It could be that they're willing to clog the handler set a little in order to make more space for their cutters
Could be
downfield.
right, yeah. And what I like to see here is that we don't have any player deeper than 30 meters away from the thrower. That means that that deeper space, and Colombia are going upwind here, is going to be more of an option. They're doing really well here. Cardenas on the sideline, near the sideline.
Oh, well towed in. That was exceptional awareness from Uribe.
Uribe to Cardenas there.
And a pick call downfield. Bit of a clash in the stack.
Uribe is the spirit captain of Colombia. She threw that previous pass to Cardenas, a veteran, even though she's 21 years old. This is her 6th World Championships event, believe it or not.
Unbelievable. So that accountable American match defense continuing to force the Colombians through very tight spaces, but...
Hernandez again here. Oh, and what a pickup there. What a pickup from the captain. A grinding point and a series of really well-worked passes. They took their time, found the right option, and great hands rising up for the Colombian captain there, Caro Angel. That makes it 2-1 USA-Colombia.
That was a phenomenal look through an incredibly tight space. One thing I'd say about Colombian Ultimate, and particularly the women's game, they resemble in a sense the Japanese in the sense that they are willing to put the disc through spaces where some of the more traditional Ultimate countries like America and Australia would not dare to thread it. They back themselves in their ability to put the disc on very careful angles and to throw those polite throws that fit through a space and then wait for their player to catch them. And you would not see me trying to throw an inside flick through that space.
Absolutely.
That was a phenomenal throw, and the wind did just get a piece of it, but the Colombians able to haul it in.
That's what I really love about World Championship events and international events in general, Cole. You see so many different approaches to Ultimate, different Ultimate cultures, different skills and strengths that players bring to the tournament. And even just watching that, you can learn so much and take that back to your home countries.
So I wanted to talk about spirit of the game, and one of the things that's phenomenal about this Colombian outfit, not just the women's team, but the entire Colombian national team, they have taken spirit, I think, to an incredible new level. They've come up with a hashtag, I trust you. It means that they trust not only their teammates, but they're choosing to trust their opposition. And they sent their extended World Games squad to TEP in the States recently. And I Trust You was a central part of that campaign, to the point where the Colombians agreed that in every single case, if ever their opponent made a call, they would have a discussion, and if their opponent wanted to maintain their call and they were sure they would get the disc, the Colombians would trust them no matter what, and always in any call situation hand the disc back, trusting their opposition to have made a good call. The incredible thing is, of course, they played a number of, well, every single game was incredibly well-spirited, and they won the tournament. Phenomenal stuff.
Amazing. What a fantastic narrative that is, Cole. And yeah, it's a unique thing about our sport, and it's a fantastic thing.
And while I'm praising the Colombians for their spirit, we should
great
also
hands
be
from Weaver
praising
there.
them for their skill on the field. Was it Uribe that got no, Weaver, I beg your pardon, who got the D. And now, as per usual, anchoring their offense from behind the disc, the Colombians looking for an opportunity to get a break back.
Montoya with the disc, looking for Weaver. Obviously a key part of their setup here. Silva.
Oh, what a bid!
Wow.
What an incredible bid! Was that Sophie Knowles, I think, who came over the top, an early reach? She's busted to the end zone.
Fast break here. Is she
She's
going to be
looking for it,
rewarded?
but Weaver's in the way!
Weaver.
Unbelievable. Sophie Knowles did everything right there. An incredible D. And then bust deep to the end zone, giving her team an opportunity to gain some yards upwind early. And the throw just didn't have the curry required to make the distance. Joy, the Colombians back on O now.
Absolutely, and good heads-up play there from Weaver. She did so much on offense and then ready to do the work on D as well. Colombians here, patient, keeping that space ahead of the disc. Oh!
This is just a joy to watch. Way there with the look. And she's missed the D, but the intensity has been enough that the Colombians have put it out of play. Americans back on offense.
You know, I think the thing about this intensity of defense and the tight matchups, even if the offense is able to connect a number of throws in a row.
Landry
Goal
away.
for America there. Goal for the States. That defensive pressure is going to tell, you know. Even if you connect 4 or 5 passes, the knowledge that your defender is ready to lay out past you at any point, it adds a feeling of pressure.
Absolutely. There's that inferred pressure that comes from feeling like at any moment the slightest mistake you make is going to get punished by the opposition. And the USA there, unbelievable grit to get the disc back after giving it up, starting that point on offense. And the Colombians just unable to maintain that defensive intensity for the entire point. The USA managed to break them open, get the disc to the middle of the field, of course, at which point the options start to become many and varied. And they were able to move it pretty smoothly down to the end zone for another score. The USA up now 3-1.
3-1, yep. And it's been such a tussle this game. something the Colombian team shared with me is that every player has a unique phrase that they hold dear to their hearts, and it describes something that's really important to them or their journey in getting to this tournament. Some are longer, some are shorter. For example, number 17, Carolina Angel, the captain, her phrase is, "Solo existe hacerlo." So, I exist only to do this. I think that's a really beautiful thing. Each of their phrases provides something extra when the going gets tough or when they're about to celebrate something good. And I think maybe they'll have to, in games like this, dig quite deep in order to find that extra gear.
Absolutely. And the Colombians, I think, collectively are absolutely full of heart, and they play with their heart and soul. And it's absolutely a joy to watch them play. So that pull, I think, from Danny Runzo, out of bounds. So the Colombians electing to move it up to the brick mark. They're setting up in a split stack, and the US sticking with their accountable match D. Let's see if the Colombians can isolate a player and make some space. Looks like Cardenas looking to move the disc quickly.
Oh, and a huge flick huck sent from the handler there. Pretty good flat option.
Claire Trop, though, got the best read. The disc starting to turn over in the wind, and she's able to effect the D, and the US back in control here. Rachel Kramer with the disc. Her dump trying to make space for it, and they're now starting to use the middle of the field really well. Maddie Gilbert sends a deep shot. Oh, not quite. Claire Trop just not quite getting the read early enough. That wind just wanted to boost it and boost it and boost it.
What an athletic bid, though. Got the trailing edge, but those discs are so hard to keep a hold of. And you saw the acknowledgement there from her defender, giving her a bit of a slapped hand, saying, well done, good try.
Absolutely. The rotation of the disc when you're in that situation, trying to grab the trailing edge, and the disc rotation is trying to rip it out of your hands, and you're already horizontal a metre off the ground. It's a complex situation to be in.
In cuts here from Colombia. Sends it deep.
This one could pay off.
Oh,
that is a phenomenal throw.
Sits up nicely. Marin with the disc. And now we have Angel Caro, the captain.
And got a call down the other end of on the throw. Looks like a stall out indicated from Ruben Berg. So let's see whether the players agree on that situation. So a stall out is what occurs. Each player has 10 seconds to move the disc on, and it's counted by their opposition. So if the count is deemed too fast, it can be contested. Ruben's indicating with the hand signals that this is a contested stall out. That means the players didn't agree that, in fact, the 10 seconds had elapsed. And looks to me like the stall's coming in on stall 8. So just 2 seconds to move the disc on here. Very high pressure situation when you're standing in your own end zone, Joy.
Absolutely. So I've got a couple of ideas of what might happen here if the shorter passes are covered quite tightly. I think we may see another long shot straight away.
Violation called. Players started moving before the disc was tapped in. So need to make sure that everybody's set and in position, and nobody starts play before the disc is tapped in. Off we go. Nice dump pass.
Shot one in. The captain cutting it again. Wow, athletic defense, but Caro has the disc in hands for now.
I'm loving the defensive efforts and, in fact, the intensity all over the ground I'm seeing from Claire Trop. She is giving everything to this team.
Reset. US sticking tight here. What can Colombia find? They're cutting in from quite deep, working it through the handlers. A lot of useful space. Oh, and the defensive pressure taking its toll.
Colombia trying to move through the break side of the field there, so trying to put the disc through the mark, and it just does make it more difficult to sit the throw exactly where you want it, and unable in that case to make a connection.
Timely defensive hand there.
Indeed, Awadel Karim unable to connect. Cardenas, and we've got a collision in the middle of the field. That one looks painful. I think that's Valeria, who is not going to call an injury. Totally accidental contact there, and a quick slap to acknowledge her opponent. Great spirit shown by both teams. So Manuela Cardenas with the disc.
Tightly squeezed away. Oh, and what athleticism to pick that up. Low to the ground. Manuela to assist Valeria. Down the line. A high disc. Oh, tough. She got her hands to that one, but it was rising. as the throw was into the wind.
Again, that 8th defender, the wind, taking its toll there. Very difficult to get the disc to sit flat.
Oh,
and that is
intercepted.
expertly picked off by Manuela.
Near the end zone here, just a couple of meters to work it in. Colombia still look quite calm. A number of players in that close area though. Oh, and they've squeezed it in.
Again, that inside flick through a tiny space, and Gomez is able to slot it. Unbelievable skills from the Colombians there, and they've managed to put that disc in upwind. So now would be the time to stack their D-line, you'd think. See if they can put the pressure on the Americans, and maybe just look to the sky and pray for a bit of wind to pick up to give them a bit of an advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. Good heads-up play there from both teams, but in the final play we saw Colombia get an intercept D, and then they had shorter, much less the field to try and work that in upwind.
Let's see if we can switch down to Ruben. Looks like he's putting his earpiece back in, so he won't be ready. Ruben, maybe you could give us a quick heads up on what happened with the stall-out call there.
Yeah, so there was a stall-out that was called. I wasn't there for when they had the discussion, but it sounded like it was contested, and that can happen with these things sometimes. It's always hard to work out whether or not you actually got the disc off or whether they're actually stalling too fast or not. So, as often is the case, they end contested. That means the stall count comes in at 8, and everyone has to go back where they were when the disc was thrown. They did all those things and they sorted it out themselves, all really good.
Thanks, Ruben. So in a stall out, the offensive player has to release the disc before the T in 10. So you start the stall count by saying stalling 1. So as you're saying 1 second has elapsed. So when you say the T in 10, that's the end of the 10-second stall count. So the debate can sometimes be, was the disc released prior to the T? And sometimes the defender is of the opinion that the offender is of the opinion that the defender was counting a little bit too quickly. Sometimes when you're on defense, the intensity can cause you to get a little bit excited. So the USA now.
Off to a quick start here in offense. The pool went quite deep, being downwind, and US, couple of forward passes, and now just calmly working through the handlers.
Loving seeing Werfley playing. I've never watched her play before, and she is just an absolute rock on O.
Long put to the end zone. A few players gathering underneath it.
That's a piece of pie, and it's brought down. Thalen with the score.
What a read. There were a number of players, at least 5 or 6 players, camped under that disc.
Absolutely.
In that situation, it's about who can get in position, who can read the disc quickly, and who can read it first. The point earlier about from Ruben about giving us a bit of a heads up about the stall count. That's something that I think is really special about our sport. The game advisors there, of course, just to provide a perspective if called upon. They reflect the calls that the players themselves make. And while there is the option to contest calls, we have seen in this game and previous games as well, a large number or proportion of players choosing not to contest. And it's that trusting culture and respect for your opponents as well as for your teammates that really makes Ultimate something unique, something special, and imbibes this sport, even at the top level, with a really fantastic feeling.
So, Joy, I'm seeing a game at the moment largely dictated by the defence. It seems to me like both teams' defences are capable of really restricting the movement of the other team's offence. And thus far, I really haven't seen an offensive strategy that is successfully working through the defence offered by their opponent. And in fact, most of the scores we're seeing really are a bit of chaos ball. That last one, we describe it as a piece of pie.
Yeah.
Up in the air, floating, big pack of players camped under it, and the USA just using their height to bring that one down. So I'm interested to see, can either team develop an offensive strategy that actually allows them to start dictating play? Can they isolate players? Can they get the defense in uncomfortable positions? And are we going to keep seeing turnovers caused by the wind?
Absolutely. By the wind, by the defensive pressure, by a combination of that.
Yeah, Ella Hansen there picking up the disc for the US and keen to end that point with a quick one to the end zone, but could not connect with her cutter.
Weaver here for Colombia.
The Colombians like to play a pretty chaotic style of offense. They don't tend to structure up the way that the American teams typically do. They train a lot, they practice a lot, they give themselves an incredible array of skills like the one you've just seen there with an incredible backhand inside look from Cardenas to Weaver. But they don't run strict structures the way that the Americans often will. And sometimes it works, sometimes it leaves them looking a little unclear.
Yeah, two ultimate cultures here, or culture's perhaps the wrong word, approaches to the game. Completely different, or from these two teams. US, you can always, or quite often, see the structure that they're playing, defensively and offensively. Colombia relying seemingly on their athleticism, to their connection to each other, and their sticky hands.
Indeed, they play a very flowing form of offense, often
Nice
getting
little moves
throws
there.
off on stall 0 before a stall count's even begun.
Here we have, they're looking for often to move the disc quite quickly after a gaining pass. So we've got Weaver with the disc here.
Americans still playing that tight one-on-one.
Nice little round break there. Disc to the middle, more options there.
Oh, hauled
Cara,
in.
nice use of the body. Just getting in front of her player. Close to the end zone now, so centering disc. Calmer attitude towards scoring here, Colombia, than in some previous points.
I think Lily Weaver just got bitten by an insect or something. She reacted to what appeared to be clear air to me. Oh! Oh my goodness, picking up the scraps. Number 17, Carolina Angel.
Sometimes a bit of luck is also the 8th or 9th player there, Cole. They're rewarded for their calm efforts, working through. They knew the spaces that they wanted to attack. You saw the player there who threw the assist eventually, pointing to the space right in front of her. It went through the hands of her intended recipient, but Colombia end up with a goal eventually.
Max, what are you seeing down at ground level?
From down here, other than the obvious, which is that both teams are working incredibly hard in what is going to be a very gritty, tough match all the way through. In that last point, the call coming from the sideline almost the entire time was no unders. Colombia, despite that, able to work that under space the entire time. Perhaps an indication that the Colombian athleticism right now on the ascendancy over the Americans. We'll see if there's a strategic change that the Americans will make to deal with that, or whether they simply just go back to their basics and really try and reinforce that point and give themselves another shot at getting it right.
Yeah, really super interesting. Thank you, Max. Shutting down the unders, I think, is paying dividends for the Americans right here. We've seen a couple of, well worked, but ultimately luck playing a little bit of a part in that goal, particularly we saw. And can the Colombians come up with a different look in their offense to counter that tight underneath defense?
I think what the American defense is successfully doing at the moment is forcing the Colombians to use those short inside looks. And while the Colombians have incredible skills, that is still a throw that has a fair degree of risk associated with it. So if the Colombians keep relying on that,
Long
that
put
is a
here.
great deep look.
And what an option.
Absolutely phenomenal throw. That was beautiful. Julia Schmaltz now with the disc. She's got Claire Throp downfield. And Claire Trop with the disc now. She has been playing an absolute blinder. A very young player. Trop just 18 years old. This is not her first rodeo, however. She's previous world's experience. Way with the disc. She's looked very composed throughout this game. Douglas now.
US players here cutting so aggressively out of their structure, attacking.
Ooh, that's an inferred D there. I don't think the Colombian player actually got a hand to it, but just managing to put the seeds of doubt in the minds of Wei.
Katavid, they're marking so tight on Wei.
And we've got an immediate deep shot. Wei looks like she's got her name written on that one, and indeed, she brings it down. So, Americans with it all to do again from their defending end zone. Douglas with the disc. Another
Long
deep
hit from
look.
the US. She
That
stuck
is
it.
a well-weighted throw.
Well-weighted throw and a well-timed cut there from the US player running long.
Sophie Knowles looking end zone. She's got Wei cutting for her, uses her dump instead. The Americans just so good at sticking to that straightforward vertical stack structure near the end zone and taking it in turns to cut. They just leave their offensive players with so much space to work in because they're not clogging in the space with extra defenders. And it's working over and over again, Joy. I think the US offense now is starting to show that they can control the space on the field and isolate their downfield cutters, which is what you need to do if you are going to dictate play against a strong defense like Colombia's.
I think height's not everything in this game, but it doesn't hurt when you're looking for a target, often that is a foot or more taller than the receiver. These throws are exceptional, though, and I think what's clear is that there's no threat from the defender in this case. But they're working on these matchups, these linkages, the US, and that was a very smooth point. I think I saw a number of options near the end zone there that other teams would have rushed to throw. US looked those off and eventually found the 100% option.
So Tulsa Douglas was key in that point, moving a lot of the disc around. She's from Brute Squad, and her brother Satchel writes for Ultiworld, so perhaps our viewers are already familiar with some of the thoughts from the Douglas clan, and she's representing them well here for the USA at the World Under-24s Ultimate Championships.
Colombia here in offense again. Something we've seen the last few points is that they'll quickly look to the open side. If that's not on, they'll look to find a break. So here we've got the open side on straight away. Changing force here from the US. You can hear their cries of home and away as the force changes sometimes every throw.
I think what the US is doing is forcing middle. So what they're trying to do is clog the middle of the field with their downfield defenders in order to try and take away spaces for the Colombians to attack.
Colombia actually looking quite comfortable against this. It's perhaps a tactic that they're aware of and play with at home.
That's a simple execution error, unfortunately, and Piper Curtis has just put on the Jets downfield.
Piper Curtis wants that disc. Made a huge cut upfield, huge cut in. She's still roaring around trying to find that disc.
A US player wide open in the end zone, but Rachel Kramer did not see that option. And unfortunately wasn't able to spot that player. Kunzo now with the disc. To you-know-who, Angela Zhu. US knocking on the door.
And there we've got it.
And they're in.
Calm goal. That US discipline near the end zone is gonna just be like money in the bank, not just for this game, but as they progress through the tournament.
And it shows a lesson that is extremely important in Ultimate, which is that on defense, often what you're trying to do is maximize your intensity. You want the whole team up and about, bouncing off their toes, screaming and yelling, shouting encouragement, trying to create as much chaos as possible. But when that works and you force a turnover, you've got to do almost the exact opposite. Calm down, get the heart rate down, and just work the disc, stick to your structures. Looks like we've got a timeout now.
Seeing the replay here, Angela Zhu. So calm with the disc. The US, I haven't seen them get red zone fever at all this match, Cole.
No, absolutely, Joy. They've shown the composure that you'd expect from probably the most experienced team at this event. They have the opportunity with the extensive college programs and club nationals season to develop their players, and they just show such composure under pressure, and it's showing here. They're able to force turns and then move the disc maturely and slowly and wait for those good options to open up and put them in.
Great. Now, for our viewers who might not know very much about this Colombian team, they come from a variety of different clubs and areas. We've had 4 players on this team represent the Colombian teams at the London World Ultimate Championships back in 2016. This team has been together for about 8 months. Trials were run in February and March, and it sounds like Youth Ultimate is definitely on the ascendancy in Colombia. There's so many players in Bogota, Medellin, and other cities. not just under 24s. There are loads of players under 17. It seems to be a big part of their sporting culture in a way now, and it's not uncommon to see even their senior national team stocked full of these younger players.
Absolutely, Joy. I was talking to a few of the Colombians prior to this matchup, and the number of them saying that they had 7 or 8 years of ultimate experience despite being the age of 18 or 19 or 20. Truly phenomenal. I found the sport of ultimate as a 35-year-old, so not quite the experience that I had being introduced to the sport, and I only wish that I could have been playing ultimate as a 12-year-old and possess anything near the kind of disc skills that these guys have got.
Definitely something to emulate. US pulling to Colombia, right to left. Colombia working downwind this point.
The US sticking with their accountable match D one-on-one. Oh, yeah, that looked like a bit of contact. Unintentional, but Cardenas putting her defender on the ground before she received that disc. So the American rightly calling a foul, and disc goes back to Weaver.
Weaver to Cardenas. Long strike there from Colombia, looked off. Colombia using some in-cuts from quite deep in the field here. Oh! Defensive pressure telling yet again. US with a fast break. Number of options deep.
Ella Hansen surveying the field, looking for something she likes. She's found it nice around break on the flick side. And they're looking end zone, and they've scored. Tulsa Douglas, her brother Satchel will be pleased. That was a beautiful cut. Well timed, and made it really easy for her thrower to just put the disc into space where she'd run onto it. And the Americans now really putting their foot on this game. They're looking to take it to halftime.
That's
with
right.
The next point.
Yeah, the score's 7-3 here, Colin, and I guess contrasting to much earlier in the game where we were saying it was a game of defense, and both teams were being limited by defensive structures and efforts of their opposition. Now it looks like Colombia are going to have to find a different defensive gear or a different look to mess up this USA calmness, not just near the end zone, but all around the field.
Absolutely, Joy. And the problem for the Colombians now is they're going out on the field on offense, and of course they're going to be calling offensive line and offensive plays, and then if they give the disc up, they've almost got to just play D. They don't have an opportunity to talk about the D that they're going to play. They don't have an opportunity to decide on matchups. And so they really need to get their offense together, move the disc down the field and score so they can get their defensive unit back out on the field and organize the way they want to. Because you're right, at the moment, once the USA has the disc in hand, it looks like they're really dictating the play now. The Colombians are going to have to step it up.
That's right. Have to be quite versatile as an ultimate player. You might start out the point on offense, but very quickly find yourself on defense.
Hansen with a great pull, puts the Colombians back, and they've moved it over to the sideline.
Gomez here. Surveying, squeezed Io, but it comes off here. Oh, and a long flick. That's a flat, nice one. It's sitting up nicely for her receiver.
Oh, no, she's put it down. Unbelievable. That was an incredible throw from Valeria Cardenas. Hansen again. She's looking really composed, anchoring this D-line offense for the USA. Kayla Strick now to the middle, and that's an unfortunate drop. I think that might have been Sophie Knowles, who's been playing really well this game. So
Cardenas to Hernandez there, the quick pickup.
Uribe to the middle of the field. Hernandez again.
Uribe, oh, the throw a little bit just behind the player there.
And the USA have got poachers everywhere here. The Colombians are running out of legs. I think Ella Hansen, it's a one-on-one downfield. This is a very dangerous moment for the Colombians. They're just out of legs defensively. Their short roster, I think, is starting to tell, and the USA are wearing them down. Hansen again puts one into space. Oh, phenomenal bid from Amel Awadel-Karim.
How much air did she get there, Cole?
Springs for legs.
From our perspective, it looked like the disc was well past her when she launched, but, you know.
Yeah, I was not expecting her to bid at all.
She got so close there. Oh, and another long one there from Valeria Cardenas.
Her power on the flick side is truly incredible. There is still a stiff breeze running left to right here, and Valeria is capable of sending flicks well over half the length of the field, sitting perfectly flat. If you've played any ultimate at all, you know that that is a lot harder than it looks. Now,
Airy one to the
Amel.
end zone.
Oh,
has
has
she
she
managed to
towed
toe
that in?
that in?
Has she towed that in? Colombians slow to react. I
They're
think
calling
that's a goal
there, and that's half-time. USA, Colombia. And that was, we saw a couple of less energetic Colombian defenders there. I think you may be right, Cole. It's not just the length of these points, but it's the incessant physical and mental pressure that the US team are exerting on the Colombians, and that can be so exhausting.
Absolutely. I think the Colombians have proven themselves to have incredible skill. And yep, just confirming that the Colombians have agreed that that was towed in. I didn't see who the scoring player was, Joy. Did you get a look? That was a phenomenal piece of awareness to keep eyes on the disc.
I didn't catch the number, unfortunately, but you're seeing a couple of highlights here from the first half.
Yeah, it's incredible to think that you're able to. To focus on the disc and get a grab while also leaving a foot back. That
Absolutely.
is a phenomenal catch.
So there we had number 19 to...
Difficult to see here. I think the discussion would have been around her left foot, whether that was in contact with the ground at the moment she clamped the disc. Certainly the crowd behind pretty convinced that that was a goal. They're happy with it.
Spectators quite pumped behind the goal scorer there. Number 5.
Number 5, Thallon.
What an
has
effort.
Played a ripper game, Claire Thallon.
So many things to think about in that situation.
Absolutely. From Eugene, Oregon, which is a place special to the heart of this particular commentator. I lived in Eugene for a time, so great to see Claire Thallon ripping that one out of the sky, and with the wherewithal to keep that back foot down and inbounds, that is the catch of the game so far for me, Joy.
It certainly was a fantastic effort, a very athletic one to end that first half.
So strategically, I think the Colombians are going to have to work out a way to get more efficient on defense. The Americans, with their long roster, deep roster, are capable of stretching them constantly, and the effort required at the moment is too much for the Colombians. So perhaps they can look to implement some different defensive looks. Maybe they could try some zones and see if they can create some ways for their players to effectively defend without having to just use their motor and run and run and run. Let's cut now to some highlights from the first half from this incredible matchup between the USA and Colombia. The USA is currently up 8-3.
Center stage from the back row. They ain't got it like that though. Turn a hoodie to a lab coat. So cutthroat. Thinking shit I give a fuck though. I ain't come to chat bro. Ain't on some thug shit. We ain't acting like it was shit. But I don't only come with rap flows. I'm on my J shit. You triple J on some wave shit. Let's try to stand without a backbone. Just trying to see what I can be when I be best. And show them everything that I can see through like each lens. I'm trying to live a life to put the love on my feet left. You're trying to run but so far that's a reflex. Resets with each beat, taking a deep breath. Who needs more but says he needs less. We see swords between up and down but he don't stress till he's so high. Cause he keep it twisted like Keith Sweat. And I I ain't trying to impress. I just like when they keep guessing, and they want me to confess. You want no more lies and no questions, cause I've been running from regrets, and my heartbeat louder the lower the beat gets. So I turn up till they tell me that he next. Try to kill it or I'ma figure how I'ma cheat death. And still I really hope that I can go back then. Crack jokes, blow smoke back then, cause we ain't know back then. When we were selling on the low back then, we wouldn't talk, no, not like them. But that was way back when, 4, 9 to 5, 8 by 10. Back when mom said back by 10. Wanna go back then, cause that was back before I changed my lens. Before the bullshit changed my friends.
So, half-time here at this critical matchup in pool play between the USA and Colombian women's teams. And the USA have thus far managed to assert their ascendancy on this contest. They're up 8-3, and what they're doing primarily is phenomenal, accountable, one-on-one match D, and they're doing it really, really well. And they're forcing the Colombians to run and run and run. And the Colombians have a short roster, just 14 players, able to make the long, long trip from Colombia to Perth, and the USA are making them pay. So one thing that's interesting about the Colombians is that they truly are a national team. The Medellin club Revolution has been in the news a lot recently because they won the US Open, and they are the home of some of Colombia's most famed players, including the Cardenas twins that are here today. But they, by all means, are not the only clubs that exist in Colombian Ultimate, and this team is composed of young women from a number of different clubs around Colombia, Joy.
Absolutely. What was really clear to me when speaking to their team was the richness of their club scene over there. So while we have a number of players here from the Revolution Club, also players from Voltaje, Aerosol, Guane, La Septima, just to name a few. And similarly with the regions, it's not dominated by Medellin or Bogota, even though they're definitely centers of Ultimate in Colombia. But there's a player from Cali. There are players from Bucaramanga. Apologies for my pronunciation there. I hope that's all right. But and they've really come together in this squad. There's a good connection between these players that you can see when each point starts, and it's really rich scene over there.
Absolutely, and I'm just so impressed with the Colombian coaching team who have brought this disparate group of women together and really created a team out of them. You can see that they have a real chemistry building, and Alejandra, Mauricio, and Santiago, the coaching team, have done a wonderful job of incorporating this group of women. They've had 3 selection camps and 3 training camps in preparation for this event. And they were spread between Medellin and Bogota, the primary ultimate centers for Colombia. And I had lunch with the Colombian ladies just before this match, and it was great to hang out with them. I speak exactly 0 Spanish, despite Duolingo telling me I'm 7% fluent. That is a lie.
Well, I guess 0 is a nice round number, and 0 won't lie. But they're actually, it's a reminder that English is not the first language for many teams here at the WFDF 2018 World Ultimate World Ultimate Championships. And despite that, communication between teams seems to be going really well here. That trusting culture, perhaps, playing its part.
Yeah, I sat in on one of the team meetings for one of the Australian teams, and I heard an 18-year-old player talking with her teammates about when there's a call made, don't necessarily speak straight away. Give yourself 2 or 3 or 5 seconds to think about what's happened. She said one of the things that happens when you talk straight away is you try to start convincing your opponent that you're right, and maybe you're not. And it's just so phenomenal to hear an 18-year-old player so composed and taking spirit of the game so seriously. That's why self-officiation works so well.
Absolutely. And already a couple of turnovers in this first point after half. Oh.
And, well, hang on, strip called by Valeria Cardenas there. I think both teams starting to wilt under the heat of this afternoon Perth sun. It's a pretty hot day here. Currently 27 degrees, that's Celsius for our American friends. They weren't able to agree on the call there, so that's a contested strip. We've heard the voice of Ruben Berg there, our chief game advisor. Contested strip, so the disc back to Weaver.
Weaver here, central position to the captain, Caro Angel. Back to Weaver. Colombia attacking the in-cuts here. You can see that cut in from Gomez, looked off. Defender was too close. Weaver, very tightly marked, these players, Gomez, but managed to hang on to those discs for the time being. You can hear the cries perhaps of, a squeeze one, and it's down. You heard home and away cried out by the US defenders there. They were playing a middle or a changing force. And now they've got their chance here, attacking the upwind end zone.
Oh,
and
that is a wide open shot and a phenomenally placed throw. That is a score. Schmaltz with the goal. And thrown to her by her next door neighbor in jersey number, Douglas.
Wow, that looked very dominant actually, Cole, there. A couple of turnovers to start that point off, but once the US got in their groove in the final possession there, some calm options and just like rammed it into the end zone. Very decisive goal.
Yep, and same thing again that we've seen for much of this game, Joy, as the games wore on. The Americans, as soon as they force a turn, they're looking to burn their Colombian defender deep. They've got the legs. And sorry, the throw went up from number 17. I beg your pardon. That was Maddie Gilbert with the assist. Sorry, go ahead, Joy.
Oh, I was just going to say, let's cross to Max on the sideline and see what he's got for us.
Thanks, guys. I've just been chatting to one of the Colombian coaches, Santiago Montaña, about what he thought of the first half and what they're going to adjust. He doesn't think there's anything tactically they need to change. He's not concerned about the wind. From his perspective, it's all in their heads. They just need to take a moment and relax. He's saying they're looking a little stressed, his team, when they're on the field. They need to take a second, relax, and play their natural game, and everything else should just come from that. So very simple message going out to the Colombian team from their coaching staff at halftime. Nothing complex, nothing tricky. Go back to the basics and they should be fine.
Ella Hansen with the pull there. She's played with Lillian Weaver, actually, who's playing with the Colombians. They played together at Schwa in the northwestern US. So former teammates now against each other here at World Championship level.
I was here, and thanks for that. Oh, wow, and a run-through D from the US here. Oh,
massive D from Piper Curtis.
It's going to be rewarded, or is perhaps a stoppage?
Let's see if we can listen in here with Ruben.
You think she had possession?
Yes.
Okay. So she thinks you had possession? Was it you who got the block, yeah? Yeah, she thinks you had possession and then put it down. It's not a turnover, a double turn. If you did, you would just have to establish possession, but you can contest. Okay. Yep. So you still, she doesn't think she did? But
I think she did.
she did?
Yes.
So you'd have to come back here anyway then. Okay? So it's contested whether you had it or not, so you're still going to have it, I think. It's going to be the best way to sort it out.
There you're hearing the voice of Ruben Berg, who's game advising here, can advise on the exact nature of the rule that the players are invoking, but they're not there to make decisions for the players themselves. So in this case, I think it was a contested call.
So the call that was made by the Colombian there was that Piper Curtis actually caught the disc when she did that run through D and then deliberately dropped it. And so if she's taken possession, she has to maintain possession. Hansen now looking end zone, and she scored. Ella Hansen is playing an absolute blinder now. She is putting her name on this game. She's anchoring the American offense when they take control of the disc. She's just camping back there as a handler, directing traffic, and then as you saw there, striking when she sees an opportunity. She set that play up absolutely wonderfully, puts it to Danny Runzo. Runzo watches Hansen streak to the end zone, sits out a polite little flick, and it's a score.
Absolutely. Great move there from Hansen. Let's perhaps cross back to Ruben. I think that's quite an unusual situation that we found there, and get his take on what happened.
Yeah, so that's, as you were saying, that was one of those instances where the defence intercepted it, and there was debate over whether they actually had possession and then put it down. Previously to the changes we made to the rules, there could have been a lot of debate about that, because it would have been the difference between a double turnover and a turnover. Because we changed the rules, if you do put it down after you've had possession, you just have to re-establish possession. So it makes it much easier for people to resolve when there is some dispute about whether they intercepted it or not.
Okay.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ruben. And we saw that there because, as you can imagine, if that was to be ruled a double turnover, meaning that the US got a block and then immediately turned the disc back over, it would be a much more difficult situation to resolve. So I think that's a good little tweak to the rules by WFDF there. Ruben, you probably get to take a little bit of credit for that, being the chair of the WFDF Rules Committee. And here we go. The pool goes up, and the Colombians needing to find something on offense here.
What are Colombia going to do here? Again, tight match defense here from US. We haven't seen a moment of zone yet in this game. Weaver with the disc. Oh! Looked for a backward dump and just pushed it a little bit wide. The US going for the fast break.
Sophie Knowles put on the afterburners as soon as she saw that turn. She wants to burn her defender to the deep space. Zhu now moving the disc. She has been an absolute rock. Julia Schmaltz back there with her. Abramovich looking for Schmaltz to make a dump cut. Nice little move there through to Sophie Knowles. Knowles looking end zone. I think we've got a score.
Very strong.
And that might be Claire Trop, who has brought it in.
What I saw from Zhu there, you know, she did not hang around the disc after she gained a couple of possessions and moved it on. She bolted back to the stack, allowed her teammates to use that space, and in doing that, opened up the field for her teammates, and USA ultimately got that goal.
Absolutely. The US are just putting on a clinic at the moment in terms of playing sensible, mature offense. It's so easy in Frisbee to try to do everything for your team. It's so easy to think that you've always got to be cutting, that you've always got to be trying to get your hands on the disc, when actually a little bit of maturity and an understanding that making space for your teammates to cut into is as important as getting the disc yourself. That gives opportunities for a player like Trop there to waltz out into an acre of open space. Sophie Knowles has acres of space to throw it into. It makes for a very easy throw, wide margins for error, and an easy score for the USA.
Absolutely. And so you can see the US there trusting their own teammates as well, as you say, not needing to do everything themselves as individuals.
They've now come out to an 11-3 lead. So I think after halftime, the Colombians still unable to score. And whilst the wind is still running left to right a little bit, it's not as strong as it has been for much of this tournament so far. And I think frankly, at this point, the key difference is the USA have got an extra 10 players to rotate through onto the field, and they are just burning the Colombians. So the Colombians still with plenty of heart and energy, as you can see with their cheers. Let's hope they can find some energy out there on the field and play some great ultimate and get a few more points on the board before the end of this game.
Absolutely, and we heard from Max earlier saying that he'd spoken to one of the coaching staff of Colombia, and in his opinion it was there was nothing tactical lacking in this Colombian team. They just need to settle, get some issues out of their own head, relax into the game and not be overawed by this very strong, experienced and skillful US team. But much easier said than done, Cole, especially up here in the commentary booth or rigging, but it's one of those things that to find a way to do that, if we could bottle that, then we'd be very successful and perhaps slightly more wealthy people.
Not a lot of wealth to be made in Frisbee, as I understand it. If your name's not Bo Kittredge, you're probably not anything to write home about on the income side of things. The US using the wind to their advantage there, and Colombia absolutely on their back foot here.
Right at the back of their end zone.
Absolutely. I wonder if one of the Cardenas twins is just going to wind up and launch one. Valeria back there.
Dangerous times here. Store count getting higher. Oh!
This could be Callahan territory. What a grab! Oh, that looked seriously painful.
Oh, no.
That looked painful for Awa Del Karim.
Hate to see that.
She has copped a knee right in the hip.
Injury?
Yeah, sorry. No, it's okay.
Is there a call or no call?
I'm taking injury.
Yeah, but is there a call on the field?
No.
No call, just injury.
Yep, so nothing untoward there, just an unfortunate clash. And that looked painful for Ramel. So she's got a smile on her face. I don't think there's anything to worry about there. She might just go and have a bit of a sit down.
As you saw in the replay, just unintentional contact, but a knee to the hip region, always painful.
Yep, better to be in the commentary booth than down on the field sometimes, Joy. So let's be honest, you're much better at Frisbee than me, so maybe you've got itchy feet watching all this incredible action. So the Colombians still in their defensive end zone, and the Americans, for the first time, looking zony. They are trying to force the Colombians into making desperate
there's the bomb
throws, and there is the bomb.
Oh! And number 14 there.
It's Douglas.
Standing tall, Douglas. Solid under that disc.
You can't teach height, is what they say. Angela Zhu now, as she has for much of this game, quarterbacking this offense with Douglas. That's a nice look through the middle. Normile back to Zhu. Normile looks open. Can the US time a cut? Nicely defended by Cardenas. Didn't look to get a stall count on. She looked to cover that next throw, and Normile has had a drop. So the Colombians.
Colombia here trying to take advantage and use that disc straight away, hopefully before the US zone can get settled, but it has settled quite quickly here. We've got a marker. Oh, and can't manage to quite hang on to that disc. US quick break themselves. Not far to work it here.
Normile literally on the end zone line. Looking dumped to Zhu.
Zhu moving a marker, pivoting. Able to get that round break off.
A bit of air, but the US still in control. That's Thalen looking for Zhu, giving her a dump. Zhu unable to get open, so we've got a blade to the end zone, and it is perfectly measured, landing in the lap of Claire Trop, who for an 18-year-old is having an absolute blinder of a game here.
Absolutely, yep. I haven't seen any liabilities on either of these teams, Cole. Despite their youth, everyone here is playing in a very team-oriented and mature way, particularly with the US offense at the moment, the score being 12-3 near the end zone, exemplary discipline, self-control, and it's paying off for them. Absolutely,
and as we spoke to with the American coaches prior to this game, their intent was not to create a team of superstars who would then create a highlight reel. Their intent was to create an incredible team. And judging by what we've seen here, Joy, I think they've succeeded. Max, what have you got for us down on the sideline?
Thanks, Cole. I just had a quick chat to check in on that player that took an injury call a little earlier. And Awa Delkarim mentioned that she took a knee to a sensitive area, just needed a moment to recover. She'll be fine. We'll be back out into the game soon.
Ooh, sensitive
Max.
area, yes.
Better her than me.
Better her than me as well, Cole. Sensitive for everyone.
And the Colombians still in strong spirits, linking arms on the line. Let's see if their offense can move it downwind.
Colombia would be keen for a bit of a comeback here. The game's not over, but a bit of a deficit. Some fast movement to start that playoff.
The US back to their trusty match D.
Hernandez sticks it long. Oh, and the disc is sitting up. Oh, for Cadenas, she runs that down. What a beautifully weighted downwind huck there from Hernandez. And Cadenas, she put the jets on, sprinted off, and managed to hang on to that disc. What a goal.
What a throw. Downwind, it is so easy to pump it too far. The assistance of the wind can cause the disc to just launch out the back, and yet Hernandez placed it to perfection. One thing I thought was interesting about that, neither Cadenas or her direct opponent were sure whether she was in the end zone or not when she caught this disc. And if you watch, she catches the disc, and perhaps we'll see it on the replay, perhaps not. It's actually Angela Zhu, who was 5 or 6 steps behind, who had the best perspective on when Cadenas took control of the disc, and she is the one who signaled that it was a goal. So again, spirit of the game in action, trust your opposition. Zhu with the best perspective, she knows when she's been beaten, and she calls the goal for her opposition.
Absolutely, so good to see. And you know, moments like that are a real display for spirit of the game and for this sport of ultimate. So that's exactly the kind of play that Colombia would have been hoping and aiming for. Score being 12-4 right now.
Yeah, so that was Colombia's first score for quite some time. And what that's going to do is it's going to give them an opportunity to come out on defense. So they can call a defensive play here. And we've been talking about the fact that the US, once they're in control of the disc, seemingly not too troubled by the Colombian defense, because the Colombians, having started on 0, never got a chance to get set up, never got a chance to pick particular matchups. Be interesting to see now, can they put in the effort, come in with the strategy, and trouble the US's offensive disc movement for this next point?
That's right. It's quite the extra challenge when you've been scored on a number of times in a row.
Phenomenal upwind pull.
That is amazing.
That is massive.
It's quite gusty wind right now. Oh,
That is unfortunate. That's landed less than a metre out of bounds. That was an unbelievable upwind pull. Just about the full length of the field into a very stiff breeze.
US here walking it to the brick mark. If a pull lands out of bounds, the offensive team can choose to take it from that brick mark, which is about a third into the field, as you can see.
So Runzo back with Normile. Carolyn Normile is going to be our central handler. Cessna, the plane, back to Runzo.
Zone look here from Colombia.
Indeed, they're clogging that lane through the middle of the field. What they're trying to do is take away those central spaces from the US offense. And what do the US do? They look to the wings. So can the Colombians turn on the screws? That's a lovely look inside to Runzo.
US players not holding on to the disc for long at all. Wouldn't be surprised if Colombia didn't even get a stall count on for much of this.
Lindsay Sue back out to Runzo. Runzo looks end zone. I think the wind, the 8th defender again, Joy. I think the wind got a hold of that one a little bit.
Push that one down a bit, yeah, absolutely, Cole.
I think Runzo was looking to have a little bit more air underneath that disc when she released it, and it just dropped quickly with the assistance of the tailwind.
Right, so we've got Manuela Cadenas here with the disc. It's all upwind here. What can they go? And the huck straight away. Who's going to be under it? Oh!
Great D. Number 21,
Colombian
Hassan.
player was chasing that, but I kind of feel that was a get this disc out of this end zone kind of tactic.
Absolutely.
And get that zone back on.
So the American number 4 has snuck out the back, Lindsay Sue.
Beautiful flat throw there.
Miscommunication by the Colombians. There was literally not a defender on her then. She managed to put on the camouflage outfit, sneak out the back. And that is a score to Normile. And the assist by Werfeli, who has been an absolute rock for the American offense. I might just mention, she performed a ground tap there, which is a very American thing to do.
Absolutely.
We don't need a ground tap in WFDF rules in that situation. As soon as you establish a legal pivot, the disc is in.
That's
so
right, yeah.
happy to see you ground tapping under USAU rules, people. But don't copy your favorite players when you're playing WFDF. Just set a pivot and start playing. Otherwise, you're wasting time on offense. You don't need to be tapping the ground when you could be releasing a beautiful throw out to your player. I'm getting the thumbs up from Ruben there.
That's right. It can be confusing. Slight differences in both sets of rules, but additional benefit of having the game advisors here to clarify certain matters. If you approach them and ask, they're all too happy to talk about the rules. They're a very friendly bunch, the game advisors, as well as passionate about the rules. But in that case, not that much time wasted. Wasn't sure if she was in or out. Unnecessary tap, but quickly done, and goal to USA.
So while we're on the subject of rules knowledge and spirit at high-level international tournaments like this, worth quickly mentioning J-Mac, as he's known, John McNaughton from Queensland, who is running some Spirit of the Game workshops for the players here at the World Under-24 Ultimate Championship. So Spirit of the Game is central to ultimate functioning as a sport. It's central to the culture of the players, and it's central to the functioning of the game on field because it's self-officiated, which requires trust in your opponent. And it's complicated by people from different cultures playing together. It's complicated by people having to work in English, which is the official language of Ultimate, but not necessarily everybody's first language. So if you would like to help develop Spirit of the Game in your home country, and you're here at the World Under-24 Ultimate Championships, encourage you to get in touch with J-Mac, John McNaughton, who is running a number of clinics throughout the week in an effort to continually improve the spirit on display here and at future events, as we see Colombia look deep.
Sent it long from Cardenas there, picked up by the tall US defender.
Indeed. Tulsa Douglas, she is not just tall, she uses her height to advantage as
Upwind half.
Mel. Oh, phenomenal catch. Claire drop again.
Got well underneath that and secured it with her body.
Back to Tulsa Douglas. The US now. Awadel Karima looking for a dump. Douglas. Well, the stall count's got to be high now. She's just going to send one straight down the guts of
Tight hustle
Valeria
there.
Cardenas.
Colombia here looking pretty energetic. They're looking to capitalize on here. And a couple of free players as the US hustle to get back on their players.
Pick call in the stack. Hernandez much more open than you would typically see a player in a match-up D situation. And so no great surprise to see Kayla Strick had called the pick. She had been impeded in her efforts to defend her player. So just going to come back in.
You can see two or three Colombian handlers here in cuts, being worked. Hernandez there to Carangel, captain of Colombia. See these options already being stifled here by the US, and Caro having to squeeze at that IO shorter option. Is Hernandez going to stick it? Oh,
good grab under pressure.
back to the captain. Oh, it's been a call.
Didn't actually see what the call was there. Any ideas, Joy?
Ruben signaling a pick. Thank you, Ruben.
Pick call. So Uribe with the disc.
Game advisor there mirroring the call, signaling the call heard from the players themselves.
The Colombians in a remarkably tight stack here. The problem with that can be it can promote picks, which don't generally do your offense any favors.
Angel working well,
Oh,
using
dear.
her body, and I hope she's all right there. She's just had a bit of a trip.
Not sure there was any contact there. Just looked like an ankle collapse from here.
Might be right. Similar
back in.
matchup in height-wise here.
Yeah, Angel, very big player for the Colombians. That is a lovely put to the back of the end zone, but a little bit too spicy.
Pushed just a little long. But I liked that possession from Colombia there. Mixed it up with a couple of longer throws and shorter ones as
who
well.
are currently not doing a job, please come down to the caveat tent. That's all volunteers who are currently not assigned to a job. Please come to the caveat tent.
Close to the ground, but picked up well there.
Ella Hansen again. I thought she was going to send that. She wound up. Douglas thinks about it. I've loved her game so far. Tulsa Douglas back to Hansen. And Claire Trop, who for me is the most exciting young player that I've seen in this tournament.
Sticky hands there.
Awardell
Oh,
Karim,
and a puck long.
beautifully
timed.
measured.
And sticky hands once again. And Trop with the, is that Trop? Trop with the goal.
That is another goal from Trop. She is dominating the stats sheet now. I think that's her second or third goal and 2 assists as well. Third goal from Trop. She is having a blinder here today.
Definitely dominant performance here from Trop and from the USA handlers. A few catches there which from less skillful players or less determined players would have easily gone down. One-handed stretches, discs close to the ground. Like other sports or another sport that's dominating our airwaves at the moment, cricket, catches win matches, Cole. And USA are demonstrating their skill in this area right now.
So we just better give some of our international viewers a quick lesson. Cricket is a sport played with feverish intent in a very small number of countries. Australia, one of them. It's one of our summer pastimes. I guess you could describe it as our local equivalent of baseball, in the sense that I find both of them hideously boring.
It's game point here at USA v Colombia. The game is by no means over until the final goal is scored, but USA here, if scoring one more point, take the game.
I think Amel Awardell Karim is okay from the impact earlier. She is pumping up her team and imploring them to close the game out here on what could be the final point. So we've seen a quick dab from the game advisors to indicate that the USA is 1 point away from victory. The Colombians have let that pull slip through.
Gomez here. Looking calm, but needing to work that disc upwind. Oh. Short passes on offer.
American D, seriously impressive at the moment. There is no easy movement. Colombia constantly on the back foot.
Absolutely. You might not see every single player sprinting all the time, but I can assure you they're in exactly the right spot to shut down the easy options from Colombia. They're constantly assessing the next move, keeping as close to their player as feasible, and looking to shut down predominantly the open side at the moment, open and unders.
That is a sick throw through the middle. I'm never going to tire of these inside looks from the Colombians. They are seriously impressive. Nice grab too.
Great grab there. Little popped over around break.
What we're noticing, the Americans are forcing the Colombians to throw into the break side space almost every time. Quick foul call, uncontested immediately from Way. That's great spirit.
Absolutely. With the first open side throw being shut down here, Cole, often the Colombians have no recourse.
Yeah, I think we're going to have an uncontested foul call there. No arguments from Way again. She's proving that she knows the rules.
Valigia to Montoya, to Silva here. Often their only recourse is to look for the breaks. You can see the thrower there pivoting to try and move the marker. Silva with the disc. Dump is very, very tightly marked there by Angela Zhu. Knows all the tricks of a handler, of course.
Mariara Montoya with the disc. She actually stayed at my house on her first night in Australia and then made her way up to Sydney for a bit of sightseeing.
Valigia back with the disc. It was a pick call earlier, slight stoppage. Caravid. Oh, it's a goal!
Yes!
It's a goal to, I think, Morantes. Fantastic goal. And there was some renewed patience there from Colombia and well rewarded.
Absolutely. I thought they used the width of the field really well there. If the Americans are going to force them to keep using the break side space, then one of the important things to do is create a large break side space to make sure that you've got plenty of room to move with the throws, and they've done that really well.
Absolutely. So again, we've got a game point situation. Yep, that's right. With USA being 14, Colombia 5. Colombia worked it so well then Can they string a number of passes, a number of goals here together to have a comeback against the USA?
I recommend the Colombian team dip into an Emma and Tom's Green Power smoothie. I picked one up from the canteen earlier today, and it was delicious. My job at this particular event extends to sitting down and doing not a whole lot, but I'm feeling particularly invigorated after my Green Power smoothie from Emma and Tom's. They're a company that produces a bunch of organic smoothies and health bars, and there's no added sugar in any of their products, but that doesn't mean they don't taste awesome. I've had a green Power smoothie and one of their iced teas so far, and Green Power smoothie currently at the top of the list. I'm going to create a leaderboard between now and the end of the event.
Good to hear, good to hear. Quick shout out to another supporter of this event, City Toyota Netherlands, providing a couple of courtesy vehicles for us. Thank you very much. It's a very friendly crew out there at City Toyota Netherlands, so if you want to pay them a visit for any of your service and purchase needs, I'm sure they'd be happy to see you. Potential game point here. Colombia pulled to USA. The score is 14-5.
Worthily to Runzo, and Colombia playing a match D here, so Tulsa Douglas trying to find a player open downfield. Oh, ninth defender, the wind underneath that. Punted to the end zone.
Long flat huck, and that is game to USA.
That is the score and the goal. Sophie Knowles, appropriately, is the player to catch the winning goal. She has had an absolutely brilliant game today. And I think what the USA have proved is that the depth available in their country, they play very, very deep. Every single player on this roster, really, there's not a hole in it. Everyone capable of every throw in the book and every defensive look in the book.
Absolutely. You'll see on your screens some wonderful structures, lots of space there for the USA offense. That is a hard-won look and achievement for any offensive team. And we saw that point and point again from the USA. They're obviously very well drilled, complemented by some superb skills. Good and discipline all round.
On a windy day like today, Joy, it doesn't hurt to be tall. Sometimes the disc is going to get the air underneath it. It's going to sit up the air in the air for a while, and you can't teach height. So good to be able to go up and get first grip on the disc. And in this case, we saw Tulsa Douglas get her hands on that one. She was able to then set up the play that led to the winning score for the USA. So they now undefeated. That was their second game. They put on a clinic for Singapore, winning 15-1, and they've done the same again today, winning this matchup with the Colombian national under-24 women's team, 15 goals to 5. So, as the players congratulate each other on a game well played with excellent spirit, let's take a look back at some of the key moments throughout the game and how the USA put their stamp on it. Yeah. Early, it was Cardenas. That is a phenomenal block.
Some of these early highlights, very defensive in nature. Another big layout block there from the US player. The defense of both teams was causing problems for the opposing offense.
Absolutely. The story of the beginning of this game was defense. Both teams able to dictate play to their opposing offense. And in fact, the first point took about 8 minutes because there was turnover after turnover. That is a phenomenal catch that we're seeing on screen. The Colombians are blessed with ludicrous athleticism. And Valeria Cardenas has very rightly made a name for herself as an absolute superstar of the game. That is a truly phenomenal catch from Claire Thallon. Towing the line, absolutely wonderful. As the game wore on, the USA able to start to put their, a stamp on proceedings. Their defense was accountable, match D the majority of the time, and then when they got the disc, the Colombians were starting to leak, weren't they, as we saw on that point there, Joey? Absolutely,
and you're right, mostly match D from the US. We did see a point or two of zone near the end when they were pulling downwind and Colombia had to work it a bit longer. Let's cross to Max with an interview down on the sideline.
Hi and welcome back. I'm here with the American coach, Alex Snyder. Thanks for joining me, Alex. First up, I want to talk about Claire Trop. She's an amazing player all over the field and all over the stat sheet. Tell me about it.
I completely agree. She is a phenomenal player. She is also the youngin on our team, which for me is so exciting to see because she has a very bright future ahead of her as far as ultimate goes and, everything else.
Absolutely. Now, I just wanted to talk a bit more broadly about this kind of tournament. How do you prepare for a tournament like this? Conditions you've never experienced against teams you've never seen before and in such a small amount of time to do it. How do you approach that?
Yeah, it's a very real challenge. We really try to focus on what we can control and really focusing on us. Our game plan, our structures, and in the end, we really hang our hat on our defense and, hope that throughout the tournament, it's a long tournament, which is great. We have a lot of opportunities for things to get better, especially our offense, but we try to come out with a defensive focus to really kind of set the tone.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much and all the best for the rest of the tournament.
Thank you so much.
And that was Alex Snyder, the American coach. Thanks for joining us for this game. Stay tuned. We've got another couple brilliant ones on their way. Thanks again.